welcome to Pitch BrandTalk. I'm Simran Sabharwal. Ask any marketer what are their challenges today, and the first thing that comes is how do we understand our consumers, particularly the Gen Zs? How do we connect with them across the multiple touch points that we have today? And of course, how do we provide an elevated consumer experience, seamless elevated consumer experience rather? To tell us more about this today, I have with me Rajesh Iyer. He's the EVP and Portfolio General Manager, Business and Industry Solutions at HCL Software. Now, HCL Software has its a martech platform called HCL Unica, which is designed for the intelligence economy with AI capabilities to cut through the digital noise and also provide data-driven context and also help provide a elevated customer experience. Rajesh, hi.
Simran, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here.
Rajesh, like I mentioned, whenever you speak to consumers, there's always this thing like, how do we understand Gen Zs? They are a new category of, the cohort which has come, particularly as most marketers are older in age to Gen Zs. How do we connect to them across multiple touch points? Because now you even have retail media and CTV, which were not existent even say 3 years ago. And how do we make sense of data? But if you were to add to this, what are the biggest challenges that you hear, including this, from marketers on, what they are facing today?
What are they? So I'll take this question in two parts, Simran, right? I'll talk about marketers in general, and then I will address the Gen Z question because I have two kids. They're both Gen Z. And it is a very, very interesting demographic. It is not one demographic, it is many demographics. And it's in many ways similar to every other marketing problem we have. In many ways, it's got very unique dynamics. So we'll address both of them in turn. The biggest problems marketers have today is relevance. How do I stay relevant? Okay. And across multiple dimensions. The first dimension is, how do I keep the attention of my audiences? Because increasingly, as you remarked, there is a proliferation of channels. Every year, especially in a market like India, the ad budget goes up by about 7 to 10%. There is a proliferation of new media like connected TVs, where there's now more than 30 million connected TVs across the country. So your living room is your landing page. More social media channels. You had TikTok went away. Now you have Aratai, WhatsApp still there. There's half a dozen other channels, mobile, push, SMS, web pages, you name it. How do I stay relevant? In an economy where more and more new brands are coming up every day, I have more competition, and everybody's blaring the same or similar messages across every channel all the time. So it's about presence. It's about announcing, hey, I'm here. Look at me, pay attention. In this we call this the attention economy, by the way. And in this attention economy, one of the biggest problems marketers have is, how do I get heard? And to get heard, I need to be relevant. To be relevant, I need to have the right message. To have the right message, I need to understand my audience better. So you start to unravel it, and it presents itself in a very nice sequence of capabilities that you need. So that's the first thing, is relevance in terms of the market. The second relevance problem is relevance internally. Because again, increasingly, budgets are under pressure. So marketers are being asked, what is the impact of the activity that you're doing on my top line or bottom line? So the head of sales says, okay, you ran all these campaigns. We spent all this money on these digital channels. We did all these events. Where is the ROI? So this is the problem of attribution, right? Attribution is all about saying, okay, I spent this amount of money on these channels, on these programs. This is the impact that it generated. The cause-effect mapping, that is attribution. This is the second problem. And the third problem is simply agility. How do I move fast enough as my markets change, as my audience changes? So it's about attention, it's about attribution, it's about agility. These are the three problems marketers have. Now let's look at the Gen Z side of this. Gen Z is one of the most conscientious generations that I have ever seen. I mean, I've had, people like me, baby boomers, have had the benefit of talking to other baby boomers who were born in the 60s. So they saw the roaring 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. But the Gen Z's audience is very, very conscious, very conscientious. And they're also very, very protective of their time and attention. So to reach out to the Gen Z audience, the first thing is you have to be relevant. You can reach out to them on any channel, but the message has to be very, very relevant. The second thing is it has to have a value beyond just a moment, in the moment, I can do this for you, I can do that for you. There's got to be a deeper connection that is more emotional. Gen Zs connect with bigger causes. They connect with causes, not with promotion. They also connect to promotions, but the deeper connection happens to causes, like anything to do with the environment, anything to do with society, anything to do with fairness, anything to do with things like that, the higher values. So with Gen Zs, the marketer's problem becomes one of not only attention, but also how do I connect to a cause that audience cares about.
So cause is very important, but are Gen Zs very different from the millennials, or is there, is there a lot of commonality also between them?
Millennials and Gen Zs both want to connect to causes. Gen Zs have, of course, their own vocabulary, things like situationship and SK, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
You got main character energy, that kind of language. It's very different language. Outside of that, their propensity is somewhat different from millennials. They're similar, but they're also different. And again, as I said, Gen Zs are way more conscientious because of the environment they grew up in, right? Look at the environment in the last 10 years. They grew up during COVID, so they are very conscientious about health and society, and they saw what it means to grow up during a lockdown. And now they're growing up in a very tricky geopolitical environment. So in a sense, they are somewhat different in that sense.
You spoke about three key points, which are the challenges today. So what are the kind of solutions when marketers come over and speak to you? What are they talking to you?
So these three themes come up. They may not use those words, but these three themes come up as a recurring element to our discussion.
Sure.
And almost always, the question they ask is, how do I get more ROI? How do I stay relevant? And
Correct.
Our response to that is, you have the attention economy, which is all about numbers, messages, presence, and then the law of mathematics, right? So I blast out 1 million messages across as many channels as I can. And I do some level of personalization and some level of segmentation. And I hope that out of the 1 million messages, you click on 1% of them and you act on 1% of that 1%. And 1% of that 1% converts to some kind of a business.
Converts.
So you have a natural funnel because of that.
Correct.
The funnel will still be around, especially for top of funnel, non-customer, new customer acquisition into the marketing funnel. But once you've gotten somebody's attention, how do I sustain it? Right? How do I move my first wave of campaign respondees through the mid-funnel process, through the buying process? And how do I eventually drive the outcome that I want to get? That is typically the conversation we have. And so we talk about the counterpoint to the attention economy, which we call the trust economy. So trust is about, building that rapport with your customer to a point that when you give them that one message on that one channel at the right time, the chances of them acting on it are 80 to 90%, versus attention economy where it's like you'd be lucky to get a 2% response rate. So that's what we talk about, is how do I get more towards the trust end of the spectrum from the attention end of the spectrum? How do I get more from the mid-funnel part of the funnel from the top end of the funnel?
But that itself is a challenge, to connect to them at a time when they are available and through one particular platform. But everybody is talking about AI globally, and even more so in the marketing universe. Currently, what we do see is a lot of marketing, when they use AI today, is mostly in the creative universe where, today if I'm making a creative which takes 2 weeks, I can do it in say 2 hours or 3 hours. But what more do you see AI's utilization going ahead, when it comes to data understanding or creating better personalized experience, or even say in media planning? Where do you see AI and marketing going ahead?
Everywhere, everywhere. Of course, content and creatives are where AI sort of has a sweet spot off the bat. I mean, so your initial
Correct.
low-hanging fruit type applications of AI will be in that domain, and that is very well deserved. Um, we see lots of applications of AI in the data domain. Okay,
Sure.
so we use words like relevance. We use words like how do I move from the attention economy, give personalized messages. Well, to do that, you need to understand your customer. And most brands have tremendous amount of data about their customers. They have tremendous amount of data about audiences in general, segments, preferences, propensities. All this data typically sits in multiple repositories, and they may have initiatives to do things like, normalization and harmonization of data, create master data management repositories, create operational data stores, and so on. We see a lot of application of AI in that domain to say, how do I extract insight from that tremendous amount of data? If you think of data as a new oil, AI can be the refinery that extracts that high octane fuel of an insight, which then enables you to precisely target your customer with that highly relevant message. And depending on their propensity, wrap it up in an experience that is very memorable. So that's one domain, is data. And there's tremendous amounts of applications of AI, everything from data intelligence, data transformation, to extracting meaningful insights from your data, to doing CDP-like things, customer data platform-like things, where you take first-party, second-party, third-party data, you reconcile and harmonize them, you resolve identities, you do automated segmentation, and you do propensity modeling using AI, and then you start to directly influence the actioning and the decisioning layer of your MarTech stack. So that's one domain, is data. The second is in the engagement itself. I was just talking to a very large financial institution yesterday, and their problem is they have 800 touch points. 800.
Wow.
Across multiple businesses. So they have a retirement business, like a 401k pension plan type business. They have a stock options and equity compensation business, and they're getting into the more retail, direct to consumer, retirement planning, wealth management business. They have over 20 million customers and participants, as they call them. How do I reach out to those 20 million participants across 800 channels, across these three lines of business? And how do I cross-pollinate? Right? Let's say someone who's got a retirement plan, how do I sell them a stock option plan? Or someone with a stock option plan who's going to West, how do I sell them a wealth management product? That's a high margin product for me. That is the problem, right? So this is where, again, AI can help a lot in terms of determining customer preferences, engaging with them in real time, getting the signals from the customer in terms of their context. The magic word in the AI era, in the intelligence economy, is context. How do I know where my customer is right now in their buying process? What has happened in their life, in terms of their family, in terms of their life situation, events in their life? Where are they physically, right? Without becoming Big Brother, how can I track my customer across all my digital channels, maybe even my physical channels, like my branch office, maybe my ATM, and take all the signals that I get from there, because customers are constantly broadcasting signals of what they want or what they don't want. Take all those signals in real time and put it through this decisioning engine to say, this is exactly where the customer is. And hence, this is the action that will generate the best response for that particular situation. This is the second area where AI really, really excels. Omni-channel customer journeys, automatically figuring out the channel propensity, automatically figuring out the next best action, delivering that next best action at the right time, collating all the customer signals and driving the insight that maximizes the effectiveness of all of this. This is where we see tremendous value of AI. And the last domain is around operations. So I'm giving you an example of a unit of one, right? One customer at an ATM went to a branch, called the call center, did something with your mobile app, and then the smart marketing technology did something for that one customer. Talk about now India scale, 1.4 billion. We got a customer, a very large public sector bank in India, who has something like 700 million audiences. How do you scale that example of that one customer across 700 million audiences? This is the third area where AI can help scale experience to what we call planet scale. So, Simran, we think of it in terms of a blueprint that we like to call XDO, experience, data, and operations. The experience we talked about in terms of engagement, data we talked about, and operations we talked about. AI is infused into the very fabric of everything that you can do in these three dimensions.
Great. But I just want to go, you mentioned, firstly, you use the term attention economy, trust, context, and how do you reach that relevant customer? But then how does the brand stand out in the noise? Because there is so much of clutter which comes into my mobile phone. Forget about TV. What is the strategy to stand out in that clutter and make sure I do not press skip?
So we talked about relevance, right? So
Yeah,
the
we
first
did
thing
talk
is
about relevance
the first thing is you need to be relevant. So you got to get my
and
attention.
context.
Now, how do you hold it, right? The first part
Correct.
is you get my attention. Second part is how do you hold it, and third is how do you build trust in that little interaction that we have, right? And Simran, this is where the third dimension comes in, which is experience. Because in marketing, we can talk about data and insights and metrics all we want, but ultimately there is a feel good, there's an ineffable, unquantifiable aspect to an interaction between a brand and a customer. And that is experience. Experience is what I feel when I interact with the brand. It's how the brand creates moments of magic. I can't have a mathematical equation for magic. I can just call it
Correct.
magic. You kind of know it when you see it. It's either there or it's not there, right? And a brand that can deliver magic and then deliver it again and again holds my attention, will stand out in all this noise. And in fact, they don't even have to do a lot. I will walk up to that brand amidst all this noise and seek out that moment of magic. Similarly, how do I not have the brand hurt the customer? We call this a moment of struggle. So the question is, how do I take moments of struggle in a customer's experience and mitigate it thoughtfully, empathetically, right? How do I take moments of magic in a customer's journey and replicate it across bigger cohorts? The best example I can give you is when my daughter was maybe 3 years old, we were at the Shangri-La in Jakarta. And so it's an Indonesian hotel. We are Indian. She was 3 years old. We were at breakfast. She had a stomach upset. She threw up, right? And unfortunately, it messed up the breakfast table. Of course, the staff was very friendly and they seated us in a different table and so on. This you expect. This is expected value from a brand like Shangri-La. You expect. I mean, kids throw up sometimes, and the hospital staff, the hotel staff, we expect them to be understanding of that and accommodate us. But here's where the magic kicked in. We finished breakfast, went back to our room. We got a phone call from the house doctor that, can I come up and take a look? We heard your baby's not well. So she comes in, takes a look. Then she says, okay, it's probably just food poisoning, do this, do that. In 15 minutes, we get another knock and we get a bowl of dal khichdi.
Okay.
Dal khichdi in Indonesia, right? Made by an Indonesian chef, not an Indian chef. I'm not in Noida, right? This is what I call my moment of magic. And look at it, Simran. My daughter is now 18. 16 years after that incident, I'm still talking about it.
Yes.
Right? That is that moment of magic. It touches you. You know, Shangri-La is my favorite hotel chain. I'm a Hilton Platinum and Marriott this and, IHG that. But Shangri-La is still my favorite brand.
I experience overcome, or experience is probably the number one factor in every brand interaction across all touch points. But there's an ongoing debate: composable platforms versus all-in-one solutions. How does this play out in real MarTech decisions?
This plays out, you use that magic word, real. This plays out when reality sets, right? So everything I've been talking about is great. But a CMO's problem and a CIO's problem is, how do I make it work, right? And more importantly, how do I make it work in my environment? This is where composability becomes important. With Unica Plus, we have a value proposition, and then with Unica as well, which is it's an integrated stack. So you get everything you want in an end-to-end MarTech stack, right? A batch campaign, segmentation, audience management, real-time decisioning, reporting, inbound, outbound, all of that, channel integration. But the reality is nobody would buy an entire stack end-to-end. It's a very rare use case where the customer buys everything from one vendor. Chances are they already have third-party channel systems. For sure, they have a bunch of data repositories that you need to integrate to. And so the idea of composability is, can I get a stack that starts to deliver value right now and not like after 18 months of a multi-million-dollar implementation? Can I customize that stack with elements that I already had, that maybe I acquired from a third-party vendor, that maybe I build in-house? And can I compose the Goldilocks solution that makes sense to me in a way that reduces my overall TCO and operational overheads? That's the reality problem, right? So composability is all about, do you have a stack that works out of the box end to end? Boom, that's great. Can I plug out certain aspects of that stack and plug in my own or some third-party vendor into that? If the answer is yes, without too much effort and too much cost, then you have a nice solution. Our own point of view here is what we call integrated composable. So with our CX solutions, with Unica, with Commerce, with our aftermarket cloud solution, we provided a suite that works out of the box end to end. But you also have the flexibility to substitute specific aspects of that stack. And we provide very well-defined APIs and mechanisms to integrate our stack with whatever else the customers might have. So that's where composability plays a big role.
We just spoke about Unica. And you also mentioned that end-to-end solutions as well as customizable, it can be customized. So is that the differentiated factor for HCL Unica, or what would you say differentiates you from the other MarTech solution providers?
Few things. First of all, let me tell you a little story, right? Unica was founded in 1993-94. And we were founded because at that time there was a killer app called email, right? The web browser had not yet been invented. Mm-hmm. And we solved the problem of paper catalog marketing. How do you bring that paper catalogs into the world of email, right? Using the new technology dimension of the killer app of that time, which was email, right? So how do you leverage technology to solve a different marketing problem that fundamentally increases the reach, scope, and ROI for our customers? 2 years ago, we asked the same question. You now have AI, which is a new killer app. What does the MarTech stack for the next decade look like? And the answer was, it has to be something that takes our customer from the attention economy to the trust economy. It has to be infused with intelligence. It has to be a complete solution, but it has to be composable. It has to deliver real outcomes in terms of relevance, in terms of attribution, in terms of agility. And so we created HCL Unica Plus with that in mind. And we call it the MarTech for the intelligence economy stack. Okay, it's AI first. So we reimagined the stack because when you write a software program in a traditional way versus when you write it with AI, AI first, AI at the heart of it, you start to think about the world in a different paradigm, right? So it's AI first, it's data driven, it's hyper personalized. It's available on multiple clouds. So we give our customer the flexibility in terms of which platform they want to deploy it on. We also make it available through our own cloud. It's a complete stack. So you don't need anything else if you have Unica, but at the same time, it's composable. So if you say, look, I have Pega for real-time decisioning. I have my own attribution models that I've written through my data science team. Can I use those? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. So it's composable.
Okay.
So that's really what makes Unica different. Simran, we call it the ABCDE. It's AI first.
Okay.
A for AI first. AI everywhere. AI built into the fabric of everything we do. B for brand new customer experience. So you talked about experience. That's where the B comes in. So every aspect of Unica has something known as Max AI, which is the marketer's assistant, who is at the front and back of every experience. So you get the traditional, really good-looking user experience. Gen Zs love it, by the way. They're also very aesthetically sensitive generation, but it's also powered by AI. C for composable, cloud native. D for data first and data driven, and E for easy. Easy to buy, easy to use, easy to deploy.
Great. I just have a couple of more questions, but I just want to understand from you, based on your conversations with CMOs, particularly in India, digital spends, when you look at the overall ad spend pie, digital spend for practically most marketers is increasing, right? At the expense of traditional. So I just want to understand from you, one, how much are you seeing this digital spend going up, and what is the kind of budgets that in percentage also that companies are now investing in AI? And second, who is your conversation partner? The CMO, the CTO, the chief digital officer, all three? Who are you conversing with, and how much are they increasing, say, year on year? If you could give me an idea, what spends are going particularly in MarTech and AI?
So media spend, we are seeing various numbers, 7%, single digits, high single digits,
Sure.
7 to 10% in that range. The media mix is changing from more traditional events to digital, to your point.
To digital.
And in particular to retail media. So because digital retail has taken off in such a big way, and the whole digital India stack has taken off in such a big way. There's just so many more channels that retail media network spend has increased. Connected TV spend has increased. So these are where we see some of the spend being directed. In terms of AI, Simran, it's very hard to get an exact number. AI is right now one of those things which everybody is talking about. But we are increasingly seeing, I just came back from India a couple of weeks ago. We are increasingly seeing in India, which is a very practical market. It's a show me the money market, right? All that gyan is fine, but show me this thing working. What we are seeing right now is, and by the way, we are talking to both all three functions: CIOs, CTOs, CMOs, and CDOs.
Okay.
Depending on the organization, the locus of control varies. But almost unanimously, they're all saying, look, enough talk. I don't want to hear about AI anymore. Show me something working. So a lot of customers are now taking existing funding and siphoning off 5%, 10%, some maybe much higher. Again, high single digits would be a good guess. It's just a guess. I don't have official data.
Sure.
But anecdotally, that's what I've heard. And they're looking at also things like, do I really need to be spending money with all these agencies? Especially the larger institutions that use multiple agency partners that have kind of been looking at maybe in-housing some of the agency work. They're looking at AI to help with that transition. They are looking at how do I leverage new media. And then especially when there's an M&A kind of scenario, they are looking at how do I incorporate the merged entity and drive better synergies across my lines of business. The other big area is new customer acquisition. So especially in banking, they use the term ETB and NTB, right? Existing to bank and new to bank. ETB marketing is pretty standard. I mean, there's no rocket science there because you have a lot of data about existing customers. It's a cross-sell, upsell problem. It's a customer satisfaction, churn prevention problem. And I'm not saying it's easy, but at least it's a known problem. It's been solved well. New to bank customer acquisition in a market like India, which is highly competitive, is where much of the dollars are being spent. So in terms of the domain, I'm looking at new to bank or new customer acquisition, new digital channels, cross pollination of product lines, and then how do I harmonize all this using AI? That's where we are seeing a lot of trends.
And finally, what would be your advice to Indian CMOs who are looking to balance, like what you mentioned, hyper personalization, so that I believe a relevant context, and I believe and I also create a relevant connection with the consumer and drive customer loyalty. Your advice.
I mean, Indian CMOs are really good, so I'm not in a position to give advice to anybody. But what I can share is some best practices at work. Ultimately, don't forget the basics, right? It's very easy to get lost in your day-to-day grind of metrics and programs and spend management and attribution and justifying why you exist and try to get new budget for new initiatives. It's very easy in all of that activity to get lost and forget the basics. The basics are you have internal stakeholders and you have external stakeholders. The internal stakeholders are looking for clarity in terms of, I'm more than happy to spend money. Where is the ROI? I mean, you'll hear about marketers talking about budget. Have you ever heard of salespeople talking about budget? Generally, no, because they're a profit center. If a sales guy is producing revenue and he or she wants more money for some sales initiative, they usually get it because they produce revenue. It's usually the marketing guys and other functions that struggle for budget. Why? Because you're a cost center. How can I reimagine my function from being a cost center to a profit center? To do that, you need to be able to attribute. To do that, you need attribution. Not Correct. Super mathematical, stochastic, Markov chain, W-shaped attribution. None of that stuff. None of the fancy stuff. But build partnerships with your stakeholders, particularly the head of revenue and the business heads, and provide the causal effect that you're having on their business so that they start to perceive you more as a profit center. So that's your internal stakeholder, where the mindset shift is from being a cost center, managing programs, to how can I be more of a profit center and drive business outcomes. And then on the external front, it's your customer, it's your audiences, it's your brand image, it's your brand promise, the value that your brand promises to your audiences. How do you protect that? And there, do not inundate your customers with messages, irrelevant messages. When you do reach out to them, be empathetic, be respectful of their privacy. We've seen these behaviors produce good results in the long term. And deliver really, really, really memorable experiences, amplify moments of magic, mitigate moments of struggle. These are the basics. If you stick to it, everything else, AI, data, big data, this, Markov chain modeling, that, all the technology gobbledygook is there to serve those two purposes. That's my information.
So stick to the basics is what I think is what I would take away from this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Simran. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be with you for the last hour.